Diamonds.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 23rd of January, 2022. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
No, we missed the twos again. It's like one day.
And Robert Kemp.
Well, nearly, yeah. I wonder if our podcast is going to fall on the proper Tuesday. 22nd of Feb.
Yes.
Right, we can only hope. Is there even a weekend?
And is it a Tuesday?
Tuesday on Tuesday.
Yeah. So we can all get a Domino's to
It
celebrate.
is in fact a Tuesday.
Is it actually?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Do we want to postpone our podcast in a few weeks for 2 days so that we can do it on the 22nd of February 2022 on a Tuesday?
Everyone, it's Tuesday.
No, it is Sunday, and it's a Saladcast.
Oh. Well, that's a shame.
Oh,
But it is still an opportunity to have pizza.
It is. Absolutely.
that's the key element.
Post-cast celebratory pizza.
Celebratory?
Celebratory. I suppose that is right.
Yeah.
It's just the emphasis is wrong.
Yeah.
Celebratory. It's made with fresh Keanu Reeves.
Is that the same route, though?
Presumably.
Are they called celebrities because they're celebrated?
Yeah.
Presumably.
Like,
That is true.
yeah, I think that's right. You have been
I'm not going to
celebritized.
celebrate them. Celebrate pizza. Or
Exactly.
celebrate post-Saladcast with pizza. Or both. Whenever you celebrate something with pizza, you are also celebrating pizza, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I guess.
How would you, if you were to just have to celebrate a pizza, give a round of applause to a pizza?
Yeah, to celebrate the existence of pizza.
Well, you celebrate when the pizza turns up at the door. You're like, oh, pizza.
Are you supposed to, for 4 people, do you then buy 5 pizzas and you put one aside to be like, we're having
This is
these
the pizza you admire.
Yeah, we're having these other 4 pizzas in your honour. 5th pizza.
The celebrity pizza.
Absolutely.
And then the cat eats it.
And then the cat eats it. The cat just sits plumb in the middle of it.
Put a pizza on this chair and find out what happens.
I mean, I think we know what will happen. She'll jump up, suddenly go, oh, what the hell is this?
Yep.
And then be all like, oh, what the hell is this?
Yep. And then
Celebrate.
eat
Dance. Memes.
it. Old memes.
Old memes.
All my memeages from 15 years ago. Not quite that. Well, almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
The genesis of the proper meme, I suppose. Of the internet meme, I guess.
Well, the peak of the memes, as everyone knows. 2006. The peak
I
of
was
memes.
deliberately misspelling more MOAR at work this week. Nobody gets that.
That is old school.
That is old school.
I swear I still come across that, though. That's not totally dead. More.
I mean, it is one of
Us
those.
to keep that alive.
It is one of those memes that is so super generic that it's just because if you were to take the meme template of that, it's pretty much just the word "more" on a blank JPEG. It's like, you can just put that on anything.
But soon.
Yeah, like soon.
I don't think anything particularly memey happened to me this week.
Nothing memeable.
Nothing memeable. No.
You were not a meme.
I didn't-
It's not working hard enough. you can meme most things, I'm sure.
I don't know. Actually, can I? When I'm sat at home all the time
We have a cat.
with a cat. Yeah,
Yeah, that definitely helps.
that does help. But she just poops and takes up chair space.
I'm sure there's some cat chair space memes in there.
I mean, I guess you did.
I mean, proof of take up chair space, basically, it's like add some numbers. 1, poop. 2, take up chair space. 3, question mark, 4, profit.
I mean, she has taken in her old age to becoming a bit more like huffy and spluttery and like coughy, I suppose, but not really a cough. She's just sort of like I'm surprised she hasn't done it yet. Like normally when she's like cleaning, she sat on my desk cleaning herself right now. And normally when she's in the middle of that, some disgusting noise will come out of her mouth. Like she'll just be like halfway through it. Or when she's yawning, that also now happens to a dramatic effect. Which she likes doing. She likes stretching over my keyboard, like have the back legs at the back of the desk and her front legs in front of the keyboard. So her face is kind of moving towards my face. Has a massive yawn while stood in this position, and then like lets out like one of these disgusting noises in the middle of it. So she'll be like, it's like that's right in my face, cat. Thanks.
Nice. They always want to be on the keyboard, right? I guess they just want to be
apparently.
I mean,
She used to be all right at this, but she's lost all keyboard etiquette since getting ill. She will just lay her head on F keys or stand all over my laptop while I'm doing things. Judicious use of undo is now a prerequisite to a workday. Actually, a prerequisite. Well, I have to undo everything I did yesterday.
Yeah. Start the day by deleting everything you already did.
yeah.
That only works if you kept the program open, though. Unless you've got save undo.
That's what source control's for.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah. And for telling you how many deletions you've made. Look at how much work I've destroyed. All in the name of making it better.
Source control like marks change as often as a add and a delete sometimes.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
But you can still feel like I am destroyer of code. If you really want.
If you want.
Speaking of a totally unrelated story that I'm going to try and recount now while I
Okay.
while I remember
Speaking
it.
of a totally unrelated story. What the hell segue is that?
Rob remembers something currently, so we better say it before it goes out of his brain, segue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fine, but don't say speaking of. Right, okay. Go on then.
I mean, from cats in my face to the Big Mac.
That makes you go,
I can has cheeseburger. There's your link.
Okay,
It
yes.
even brings
well done.
in the
Like
old
cheeseburgers.
meme to the segue.
Excellent. Well done. We workshopped
And the
this into
cats, and the
submission.
cheeseburgers.
Also, my Spotify did play the Hamburger Dayum song the other day, so you know,
Nice.
it's all coming together.
It's all working out.
Damn, damn, damn. Get a grocery bag. Yeah, so did you hear that McDonald's lost the trademark to Big Mac in Europe?
No.
Like, I can't remember if this is old news or like recent news or whatever, but like apparently like they tried to like sue an Irish diner chain called Supermax, who also had a Big Mac on their menu, and be like, you can't do that. We're the owners of the Big Mac,
Right.
and they lost. And I don't know like the technicalities of how that works particularly. But yeah, as a result of that, they no longer have a trademark on Big Mac in Europe.
But presumably this other chain does.
No, neither of them technically can.
No.
I think was the outcome. It was because they were both using it and had been using it for some time. The court ruled it's like, well, there's no infringement here.
So the court ruled that they'd both been using it effectively an equal amount, and therefore they just cancel out.
The trademark was invalid, effectively. Yeah.
That's bizarre. Usually the giant companies can just force these things even when like it's way past the date, like Mickey Mouse or whatever.
Yeah.
Well over past copyright times.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure McDonald's has done that before for one or other of their trademarks.
I bet they have. Yeah. A muck something.
Yeah.
Just anything with muck in it. Or Mac.
Yeah.
Or just a Archie M.
An Archie M. Don't make it M's too Archie.
Oh no,
or golden.
Yeah, you'll be in trouble. Yeah, so the funniest
Do
thing
the
I saw.
Super Macs taste like Big Macs, or are they totally different? Because that really would be like pushing it if they made Big Macs and they were like basically Big Macs.
I don't know. I'm not really familiar with Super.
Because I have
Super
heard
Mac.
stories about franchise McDonald's then saying we're no longer a McDonald's and changing the names of everything, but still making like a Big Mac with the same recipe, but like slightly improved or
Oh,
something.
right. Well, they actually put
and then
proper
being shut
burgers
down.
in it.
Well, I mean, yeah, like
I don't-
presumably they'd have to source all the ingredients for a new place.
Yeah,
Because they wouldn't be getting
presumably, yeah.
McDonald's deliveries any longer. But if they already
Yeah.
knew what the recipe was, more or less, they could put together the same burger just with different constituent parts.
Oh, wait, so they were a McDonald's franchise and then
Yeah.
stopped being McDonald's, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's the story I heard. That was a while ago, though, and they did get shut down. So that obviously wasn't to do with the trademark, or maybe it was, but it was at a prior time when that.
Well, I mean, I guess that is
Still
the
belongs
second
to-
stage of this, isn't it? It's like, is the actual recipe a trademark?
Because I think maybe it is on the basis of that old story that I
Yeah.
remember.
Oh boy.
But who knows?
But, well, for one thing, I kind of do have to qualify in this. This is way older a story than I thought it was.
I suspected
Right,
it
right.
might be.
2019.
It's not that old.
But the ruling said McDonald's had not proved a genuine case use of the muck prefix as a burger or restaurant name. But that doesn't make sense either, because it's like,
Well, that's nothing to do with the Big Mac.
yeah, that's nothing to do with the Big Mac. Have not proved genuine use of the muck prefix.
Because they don't do that in McDonald's, do they?
I
I mean, people do that when they're talking about McDonald's. McNuggets,
sure,
I
yeah,
guess.
It's a muck everything. It's a muck shake. Even if it's probably not a muck shake, right?
But chicken McNuggets aren't actually called that, are they?
Oh, right. Sorry. There were two cases with Super Macs. The first was for Big Mac, and the second was for Muck.
Okay.
And they lost them both.
So, would you have any reason to try the not meat McDonald's burgers?
I mean, I've tried the BK not meat one, the plant-based Whopper, or it used to be called the Rebel Whopper when it first
Right.
came out, but I guess no one knew what that was, so
Right.
they made it the plant. They just called it the plant-based Whopper now. Was
Right,
it?
okay.
What's the McDonald's one? It's the Muck Plant, isn't it? Or-
Is it the McPlant?
I think it might be the Muck Plant.
That's a great name. I think that's just like a quarter pounder equivalent, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, something like
that. You can't get a plant-based Big Mac, I don't think yet. Not yet, anyway.
So you just buy two and stack them on top of each other.
Pretty much.
Classic
Yeah.
technique.
Or, you do what I do. And like, in the absence of the Big Tasty, the best McDonald's burger is the double quarter pounder. Fight me.
I like a Big Mac, but yeah, I'd be happy with a quarter pounder.
I mean, what was the thing they did? Was it the Super Big Mac like earlier last year?
where it was just
like
use the constituent parts of a quarter pounder.
no. There's like the Super Mac or something where it's like they don't.
Super Mac's the Irish one, isn't it?
No,
We just
yeah,
talked
no, I
about-
forget. There's one variant of the Big Mac where it's not actually like wider, like you want. They just make it taller. It's not like adding like maybe double beef wherever
Oh
there's a
wow,
single
it's already
beef.
pretty unstable. Like it's already as tall as it is wide, pretty much a Big Mac.
Yeah, because before that they did the Grand Mac, which is the one I think you're referring
Yeah,
to.
that's
Where
It was
what I
just
meant,
big.
yeah.
they basically took the Big Tasty bun and the Big Tasty burger and made a Mac out of it, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a good idea. That was acceptable, but like whatever they did for like their bigger Mac thing last year, no, that's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to burgers.
Well, as we've said before, like they've already topped out with the Windows 7 burger. So anything smaller,
Yeah, they're-
anything smaller than 7 on top of each other, they're doing good, I guess.
They need a Windows 11 burger.
God.
Getting hungry for Big Macs now. This
God
is
damn it,
really good.
we talked about food at the start of the podcast again.
No, bad idea.
Well, I've got good news for you. We are getting pizza this week at least.
Okay.
We got a Burger King last week.
Well, I mean,
just to make things.
I don't think either of those is bad news.
Oh no, absolutely not. We're definitely getting pizza this week. I'm putting my foot down.
Doesn't take much to put your foot down on that topic, exactly.
No,
really.
it really doesn't. It's a Sunday. Everyone knows what to expect.
Filth.
Absolutely.
Filth day.
Filthy Pete. Yeah. Also, another thing.
Another completely unrelated thing, yes.
Actually completely unrelated, but marginally related because it's something I forgot to talk about weeks and weeks ago.
You can't have something that's related because I forgot
to talk about it.
In related news of my brain functioning.
What the fuck?
On this episode of Rob Remembers.
Speaking of something totally unrelated.
I have to put my drink down before I overlaugh. Oh boy. Did you know that Games Master came back for a season?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I heard about it.
But they're never going to have...
already over?
You know...
It was only like 3 episodes or something. Like, it was real short, but...
I heard it was good.
It was
somehow.
actually all right. In a weird way, the game stuff was kind of actually the worst bit of it. Like they,
Well, I mean,
like,
obviously.
but
Right, yeah.
Oh, I can't remember his name, but the Scottish. Of course, they had to get another Scottish presenter in, but he was genuinely good at it. And they got
Right.
and they got Frankie, who does the PC gaming show for E3. She was on it as well. And it was, and can you guess who the Games Master was? Because obviously they can't use Patrick Moore. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that just you know,
rip.
it's never going to be as good.
I mean, they could have used Patrick Moore. Like, we have the technology. Could have been an Unreal 5 ad.
Who would be equivalent to Patrick Moore? That's quite hard. It would have to be Brian Cox or something. that he's too cool.
I'll give you a clue. Brian Cox isn't old enough, or nor is the new one an astronomer.
He's not old enough. Yeah.
Or even vaguely
Old
science.
guy, not an astronomer.
Yeah.
Who could it be? Don't know. Who was it?
Trevor McDonald.
Oh.
They 100% got Trevor McDonald to do this. And, like, yeah, he's obviously reading from a script just as Patrick Moore was. But he's all right at it as well.
Yeah.
And my favourite thing, I think, about the whole show is the extremely budget way they, quote-unquote, kill people off in this thing. Like, so if you lose your challenge, it's like you know, it's always been the Games Master thing, right, where you go into some, like, pit or something, or you get...
Yeah.
You get murdered off screen, basically. In this one, what they do is they literally just flush you down into the lava pit where the Games Master supposedly lives. But it's like done in like the worst, like they just film them going in front of a camera, and then just like very hurriedly like copy and paste them falling down this CG tower. It's the worst, but it's hilarious. and then Trevor McDonald has some kind of burn.
So did it get canned then? Like
I don't think it got canned. I don't think it was planned to be a long
for more than 3 episodes.
A long reboot. Because like in the last episode, he literally just say like, "Well, that's the end of the reboot. I hope your nostalgia hasn't been totally ruined."
That's a good joke. Nice.
It was all right. It was surprisingly okay. I think like for people like us, like where we're too into it, it's a little bit meaningless. But I think if a casual gaming audience is still a thing, slides right in.
It is quite strange how all this time later, games and TV never really came together.
No.
No shows never really worked. It's got to the point where TV is dead and games is way bigger.
Okay, so this is another really great thing about this. Do you remember Sky's attempt at taking on Games Master back in the 90s?
I think I remember something.
Games World.
Right. Was it a kid show? I mean, Games Master was
bits
a
of
kid
it.
show,
Bits of it were like, yeah. I mean, it was all aimed at sort of younger ages, I suppose, back then. But do you remember the Tuesday night versions of Games World featuring Big Boy Barry?
I mean, no. But
He's back,
was
baby.
it live? Was it live?
No, it was like a sketch show. It was like it was like a painful sitcom.
Oh God!
It had David Walliams in it. Not a joke.
Sounds painful.
Yeah. And it also had like Jet from Gladiators in it as well. It was weird. Anyway, yeah, Big Boy Barry. He turns up in Games Master. It's like return.
Oh, I see. They crossed
After all
it
these
over.
years. It's pretty ridiculous. I kind of hope they come back.
That was
Because, they
Well,
also do a sort of
maybe the
Limmy
Games
style
Master will.
sketch about like educating another Scotsman about video game terms, which is actually pretty good as well.
I mean, Limmy would be a good host for. He streams now, though. That's the thing. TV's dead. You just watch Limmy on Twitch instead.
Does he stream? What does he stream?
Yeah, that's Limmy's whole thing. He streams all the time. That's his job. He's a Twitch streamer. Limmy.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. And of course, it's hilarious. You can get clips of it on YouTube. But yeah, that's what he does now. He's a Twitch streamer.
Does he, what streams games, or does he just talk to people?
think he does.
Or does he try and do that like phone RPG game joke that's in the Limmy show? Just do it for real.
Not sure. I don't actually watch Twitch streams, but I just see his clips of him on YouTube from Twitch.
Wow. All right.
Let's see. Maybe I can look up Lemmy and see how many subscribers he's got or something. How do you do that? Twitch. Lemmy. 393,000 followers. Is that a lot? Sounds like a lot.
Wait, just 3,000 in the single thousands? Or...
No, 393.
Oh, 390.
So nearly 4.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
good.
nearly 400,000.
I mean, it's way more than we'll ever get.
That's not saying much.
Yeah. No, it's not. Anywho, it seems that we have segued slightly into games there through the power of
Slightly.
Games Master. So is it time for the news?
News.
The singular news.
The new.
The news. What's the news? Everyone knows what the news is.
Everyone knows
it was
what the
enough
news
that
is.
when I saw the news, it was on the front page of the BBC News.
Yeah,
And I made a what the fuck face in my Zoom call.
absolutely. I first heard of it from Kippers on Facebook. He posted it saying, "Oh, good. Hang on to your Call of Duty on PlayStation for now, bitches," or something. and I just commented to be like, "What the what?" I was just so "Is this real?" Because I've just seen this on Facebook. This can't be real.
And
Yeah.
obviously, I saw it via the power of YouTube thumbnails, because that's where I receive news nowadays, apparently.
Yes. You don't actually need to watch any videos. Just
No.
browse all the thumbnails. And the people doing stupid faces in the stupid thumbnails.
So, Microsoft
Yeah.
have put in a proposal. I mean, it's kind of a done deal, but not closed, if that makes sense. But they're buying Activision Blizzard. Are they just Activision Blizzard, or are they actually is their full title Activision Blizzard King?
Yeah.
Oh, fair. Well, whatever. And you thought buying Bethesda was a bold move. This
I mean,
is like $70 billion.
is 10 or 20 times more money being handed over.
The biggest acquisition by far in Microsoft history.
It's an imaginary number. It's just
Which is why everyone is like, it's not necessarily a done deal yet, because this is definitely something that could get lured in some kind of monopoly anti-competitive aspects going on here.
But
So-
it seems
so
like
they-
it's
so they
likely
think-
to go through. Yeah.
well, yeah, because it doesn't. It's odd, right? Because even by Microsoft's own press briefing or their own statement on this would still only make Microsoft the third biggest video game company.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean,
I think behind Tencent and
I don't think that's the way you need to look at that statistic. You need to look at who's fourth.
Sony. I think Sony are up there as well. So Sony, Tencent, then Microsoft.
You don't need to look at the two that are above. You need to look at the one that's below. Because if that one is way below, that's where the problem is.
I suppose, but then wouldn't it be kind of weird to have a go at Microsoft for monopoly when there's two people bigger than them? that smacks of like,
Well, I mean,
surely you should go after Sony and Tencent.
Yeah, but
first.
are they currently buying someone? No.
Well, I mean, Sony have bought lots of little people recently, but like, no, they haven't bought huge, massive.
And, I mean, you can't do anything about Tencent, so they barely even count in the statistic.
No, I don't think anything like that's going to happen. It's not quite enough, I think, to be monopoly standard. It's not like Media Player on Windows.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not. It doesn't have to be a monopoly. It just has to be on the road to a monopoly. That's the whole point of this thing. There's a difference between. That's why it's called anti-competitive and not just a monopoly.
But Microsoft will never be able to buy Sony.
Yeah, but that's not the point.
So it will never be a monopoly. They'll never buy Nintendo because Nintendo will never sell.
They tried.
They tried.
Today.
Yeah.
The point is that it's shrinking the market. It's not that it's actually a monopoly or not.
See, here's the weird thing about that statement, though. Activision Blizzard don't actually put out that much content, really. Yeah, they're huge, but they don't put out that much. They put out a Call of Duty every year.
You mean they don't put out much that we care about?
No, I mean literally, like
because for the amount. King, that's probably. I was going to say a third, but it's probably way more than a third of that company.
Maybe, but okay, what? I mean, this is outside our realm of knowledge, I suppose. But like, what else does King own other than Candy Crush? Are they behind Clash Royale? And
I mean, that is the exact question that we don't know.
Are they Clash of Clans?
I would bet they're probably one of them. One of those grade of games.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Candy Crush still makes a fortune.
Yes.
Somehow. Somehow.
But again, I mean, there's ongoing things still. I mean, World of Warcraft is still hanging around. That's maybe not making that much money any longer.
They're not really doing huge updates for World of Warcraft anymore, are they? Like, when was the last time they put out an expansion for that thing? Like years and years ago.
Well, apart from the remake one, which is
classic, I suppose. Yeah, but I'm not sure that barely counts.
No.
I mean, the thing I've heard, well, okay, what's the play here with these properties? Like, people have been trying to figure out what are Microsoft actually going to do with the IP they have now, and it's like, well, World of Warcraft.
Put it all on Game Pass is the answer.
Put it all on Game Pass. Put World of Warcraft on console, possibly, if that's even doable.
I wouldn't have thought they'll try that. I mean, it's already on PC, and that's Microsoft's angle anyway.
Yeah. Otherwise, what else have they got? Like Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 become exclusives. They've already said Call of Duty is not going to be Xbox exclusive. They're going to keep that on PlayStation
for now
because money.
Yeah,
or is it money? Like, there's no PS5 to put it on.
No, but that's it's a bit like
Pass, isn't it? Though.
True.
That's the same with Bethesda. It's all about having the content to make the Netflix of games.
100%.
Out of making the Netflix of Netflix.
That's absolutely why they've acquired them.
And
what could they do that's breaks the Activision Blizzard mold is what's interesting, right?
And I mean, if you want to take another alternate definition of a monopoly, they pretty much have a monopoly on a Game Pass-esque service.
I mean, that part's true. You could argue they're the only people doing this. I mean, PlayStation Now does exist, and it is kind of the same thing. It's just not nearly as big.
I mean, if Games Pass does transition to be more like a Netflix for gaming, then that will automatically be a monopoly, essentially.
It'll be the same as Netflix, though, wasn't it? Netflix was the only game in town, kind of.
No, Love Film built it to the punch. Beat it to the punch, sorry.
That's just UK, though.
Yeah.
But in terms of the streaming service, they were way out ahead. But now, you've got your Disney Pluses and the Amazon have caught up and stuff like that.
I mean, I guess that... It's a problem of what.
Also, it wasn't long until Prime Video sort of entered that space.
I suppose
exactly.
The two are pretty close.
I suppose the difference between the Netflix of Netflix and the Netflix of gaming is that Netflix. Well, they do now, but originally Netflix didn't really make the content.
But then they transitioned to that fairly fast, right?
So I mean, in Microsoft's case, they technically don't make the content, but they own all
make-
the publishers that do make the content.
And they do make
Well-
they make some content.
Well, yeah, they make a bit of it.
The comparison's actually very, very apt. Like, yeah, Microsoft
It is,
make a
yeah.
great deal of content for their own service because, of course, they do. It's in their interests to. Netflix make a whole lot of content for their own service that will never be anywhere else because it's in their interests to.
Exactly. It's the
Um,
same.
Although a lot of stuff that gets marked as a Netflix series is often just bought in. Like a lot of it,
Yeah.
it annoys me sometimes where there's
Production
like
company,
a lot of shows where where they say this is a Netflix original. It's like, no, you've just got the distribution rights to it. You've got the exclusive distribution to this show. It was actually made by someone else.
Yeah. That's just how it goes, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like even BBC shows, obviously they're funded by the BBC from the public, from the
but only-
license fee for the time being.
but only
they
partially.
They still go to a production company to make shows, and sometimes some of the funding comes from
Yeah, a lot of
I don't know, BBC America or whatever.
absolutely a lot of the big BBC stuff is done in partnership now with someone. Like
Yeah.
the BBC will be
Yeah.
involved, but there'll be another big international company that funding a good deal of it. Like the Watch was that way, right? It was like
Yeah, that
there
was BBC America.
Yeah. And what was the other thing I was thinking of? Is it His Dark Materials or something? That's another thing where it's funded like internationally or
Oh,
something.
wait, no, The Watch was like BBC America, but it was also South Africa, right? Because that's where they filmed it all.
Right, yes.
That was the weird thing about it.
That's a long-standing thing. Like Band of Brothers was like 2001 or like that was HBO BBC, wasn't it?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Yeah, the Beeb can't afford shows like that on their own. They have to partner up. I suppose that's news as well. Hey, the whole BBC subscription thing is kind of blowing up, isn't it? And it's like
I mean, they just deployed that to try and distract from fucking Polygate shit.
Yes, but that's what everything at the moment is that.
yeah,
Yeah,
everything's a
literally
distraction.
everything. Even the freaking war in Ukraine, probably. They're like, oh, we'll send them some
Guns.
laws or whatever. Yeah.
So yeah, this is a big deal, but like in a weird way, like I think in terms of you and I as a consumer, it is less of a deal, I think, than some of the previous buys. Like I actually don't think, because as I say, Activision Blizzard's output, other than Call of Duty, is not fast. They don't put out many games. It's like Overwatch 2 is 2 years behind. Diablo
Bethesda
4 is
make-
multiple years behind. It's
Bethesda
might
make giant games, don't they? Like
they make
Skyrim or
big
whatever,
single games. No,
occasionally. Yeah.
well, Bethesda do, yeah, but like
Yeah.
Blizzard don't, not anymore. Activision don't anymore. Like, okay, well, what Activision also have, I suppose, Crash and Spyro, and Crash 4 is kind of their most recent, like, outside the mold hit, I suppose.
I suppose the other angle to all this is, of course, Activision has been in the shit for, and this is why it happened now. I
Yes.
suppose. But
I was definitely delaying our discussion on this because this is obviously a huge part of it, right? Like the stock price for Activision Blizzard had been decreasing since basically since the media got hold of the whole
horrific scandal.
the abuse, the allegations, all of the bad working conditions, anything you can think of. It's happened at Activision and Blizzard and King, and it's would be somewhat remiss to state that Bobby Kotick, CEO of Activision Blizzard King, hasn't exactly been he's basically Randy Pitchford, but like on a whole nother level, right?
I don't know, a whole other level, pretty equal levels, probably. Just that we know about Bobby Kotick's levels.
Let's call it a 10 times billion multiplier.
Well, sure, I guess.
In terms of
Money.
Randy Pitchford, yeah.
And now, he's still in post for now, but he'll be going mega rich.
Yeah, I mean, the reports are a bit mixed on that, like whether or not he'll be going or not. Like, some say he'll be going when the acquisition completes, some say he'll be sticking around, and it's offensive that he's not being booted. It's offensive that Microsoft, Satya Nadella, who's normally, I think, a pretty decent guy, is basically saying we're grateful for him trying to sort out the situation there. And it's like, I mean, sure, I guess that statement is true, but he is the situation there in part.
Yeah, he can't stay. I think it's also that they can finalise the deal.
It's a way of getting him out. Like,
well, I mean, they've got to because he's so ingrained in the board of Activision Blizzard or whatever that like once that board gets subsumed into Microsoft, that'll make it way easier to get rid of him. Essentially,
The problem is
it's all contracts.
yeah, naturally, he may be the biggest asshole on the planet, like short of having a nuclear weapon, I guess. But his company makes a bucket load of money, and it's like, oh, no one's going to get rid of him while he's still making a bucket load of money, and that's the unfortunate part of it all.
If anyone can, Microsoft can, right?
Well,
Yeah,
I think they would have got rid of him on their own if Microsoft hadn't bought them. Eventually, it was going that way.
I see. I've never been convinced that they had enough on him. Like every time everyone says it's like this is the thing that's going to get Bobby, he survives every time.
But this time has been fairly different. This time it was actual legal shit going on, not just people saying things.
But usually, like even those cases, they don't often result in the CEO being kicked out. They often result in like the company itself will end up having a fine that is that sounds like a big number, but is utterly meaningless to the well-being of the company. Likely how it'll go.
Well, I don't actually know what exactly the penalties that California can do actually.
No,
are.
I can't. Like, not
Presumably, it will just be some kind of fine, but will that is it what percentage of Activision Blizzard is even in California or whatever? Like, because that's the other way that you get out of those kind of fines, isn't it? The company is not actually fully in California; it's like 50% in Ireland or whatever. So you can only have 50% of our money to take from.
right.
But yes,
It's really the most intriguing part of this is actually Microsoft now owning the IPs of Activision and Blizzard, like historic, not just the ones they crank out these days.
yeah,
but
but
like
what
everything they've
even
ever
other
made.
ones are there of those?
Rock and roll racing. Like, imagine if like they gave that to someone else.
Going
Like,
to be interesting in the slightest.
oh come on!
It's exactly the same thing that's going to happen as happened with Rare. They will have a bunch of old IPs that people theoretically care about, but don't actually care about enough to do anything with.
But they're making a new Perfect Dark.
Comparison.
They're making a new Perfect Dark.
Are
Guys,
really?
they're making a new Perfect Dark.
I don't think they are.
Vaporware,
I think they're
isn't
making an FPS that they put the Perfect Dark name on.
It'll come out as Perfect Dark. If anything, I forget who it is. Is it the Initiative or something that's working on that? Something like that. One of their.
You mean not Rare for a start?
No, it isn't Rare. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. They've got the IP. They can give it to any of their studios, and they've got a lot of sodding studios now.
Which is half the problem. Let the people who actually made the game make the game.
The Lost Vikings. No, the people who made the game aren't in Activision and Blizzard anymore. That's the thing. Like, those people are long gone. The people that made like Overwatch aren't in the company anymore. Half of those were part of this allegation thing, and half of those left. It's like half of the people at the top of that. Anyway, it's like it's too much time has passed with this studio to say like their IPs of old can be made by the people that made the old games.
Well,
I
think too much time has passed for their IPs of old to be relevant any longer. Because the ones that they kept making, and the ones that they didn't make are so old at this point that it's just like it's not even funny to talk about making them again. It's not like the Rare ones. They at least made a few more attempts to keep those IPs alive.
The possibility is there, and I think Microsoft have done it in the past. They have done this thing. They're making another Perfect Dark.
I don't think Microsoft is interested in Activision Blizzard's IPs.
They brought back Psycho. I mean, okay, admittedly, like Double Fine were doing Psychonauts already, but hey, that came back, and Microsoft helped that happen. They brought back Battletoads. And that wasn't Rare making that. That was another studio.
But that was after Killer Instinct, though, right?
They brought back Killer Instinct. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but Killer Instinct...
That was Double Helix. That was an unproven studio.
I think Killer Instinct might have been a special case, because I think that was Microsoft looking for a fighting game at that time.
True. And they owned the IP.
Yeah.
So I got someone in. But that's yeah. I suppose you're right. I suppose they don't own in the like what IPs could Activision Blizzard bring to the table, or what genres could they bring to the table that they don't already have? I suppose like they don't have a proper what do you call it? Like an action RPG particularly. It's like if you're counting
Bring back
like
Blinks the Time Sweeper.
No. I mean like
Oh, you mean like Diablo?
Like Diablo, yeah. Diablo's kind of. I mean, Minecraft Dungeons, I suppose, was their attempt at that.
Yeah, very obviously
in a light way, but now they have Diablo. That fills a niche for them.
No, I mean the obvious answer of what Microsoft is getting out of this is all the mobile shit.
Yeah, I mean it's just money, isn't it? Like on that front, like the mobile makes money, doesn't make the news. It'll be a nice little earner.
Well, it does make our news.
I'm not even sure like mobile really makes big news anyway, like mobile gaming.
No, I mean, I guess
it just sort of sits there, making all the money in the world.
And we can safely ignore it.
Yeah.
Most of the time, anyway.
Anyway,
Right, well,
that is
the big news, I guess. Yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
Do you reckon they'll get the Age of Empires team making a new StarCraft?
I think
StarCraft's been dormant for quite a while now, really.
Who made the new Age of Empires, wasn't it?
It's I can't remember. It is
Relic, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it was Relic. Can't remember. It's an internal studio, but I don't think it was because aren't Relic still owned by like 2K or something still?
Oh right, okay.
Or no, I might be thinking of Massive, and Massive's Ubisoft.
yeah.
Can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Like now, I'm thinking that like I don't know if Microsoft wants to have a competition to Age of Empires because at least not immediately.
Yeah,
we're
maybe.
probably several years away if we're going to see a new StarCraft. I mean, because they'd have to start making it from scratch at this point.
Sure.
Do Warcraft.
I mean, they could do Warcraft.
Warcraft 4.
They could fix Warcraft 3 first.
Yeah, that's true.
No, it was Relic. No, you're absolutely right. Relic Entertainment in partnership with World's Edge. You are absolutely right.
I mean, we've still got technically up to a year until this deal actually is fully complete. and judging by how things have been going with Bethesda, we've still got at least as long as it's been since Microsoft bought Bethesda until we'll actually see anything happen, apparently.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be like a year and a half till this closes anyway.
Yeah.
So
and then
business as usual until then,
at
really.
At least a year, probably more before we even see any new games. I mean, I guess Bethesda were working on stuff before they got bought, and then so that's all still planned to come out. And if you assume that Activision is working, I mean, there'll be a Call of Duty. I mean, I guess that's about all you can say.
Yeah, but there will be a Call of Duty, and at least for the foreseeable, it's going to keep being on all platforms. What if they stopped the Call of Duty train?
For the single player, they've run out, haven't they, of ideas of settings, haven't they? They've done every single one 3 times, haven't they?
This is what I wonder. I wonder if they'd actually stop the Call of Duty train. But the problem is like Call of Duty still... It doesn't top the charts, I think, anymore, but it's still way up there, year on year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do just drop the campaigns completely. I mean, they tried that one year, right? Was it Black Ops 3 or something that didn't really have a campaign?
Right. And they partially tried to do it with Warzone, I guess.
Yeah.
you could argue that was basically a game that didn't have a campaign, except it wasn't
The
meant to be as
Battle
big.
Royale one.
Yeah, the free to play basically, and it's Warzone that makes the money, I guess now.
Well, I guess that's the way to. They're doing it with Halo, so they just do the same with the Call of Duty. Just make it free to play, and Counter Strike. Do you pay for Counter Strike?
I think you. I can't remember. Do you still pay for Go?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, still an entry fee. I think because it's still one of the most what do you call it, hacked and abused games on the planet. That actually having an entry fee makes sense. It doesn't stop it, but hey, it's a deterrent of sorts.
Can you play that on modern consoles? No.
Counter Strike, no, absolutely not. I mean, you could Steam Link your PC.
At one point, you could though, right? Like, wait.
There was one version of Counter Strike
Yeah.
that came out on console years and years and years ago, maybe in the 360 era.
Whatever that was called.
Was that in the orange box?
Maybe. It was Counter Strike 0, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, that was it.
That was the specific version.
Because that had a campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zero. I don't think Zero was particularly fondly
Well, no.
remembered.
Because it was the consoleized one.
Yeah. I mean, the multiplayer never took off on PC.
Because everyone was just continuing to play normal Counter Strike.
They were still playing CS Source at that point.
Yeah.
And CS Source was fine. Still.
Or were they just playing CS 1.6?
Yes.
I suppose there was the split then, wasn't there? The 1.6s versus the sources.
I mean, that was the other problem with Zero, is like that they'd already had this split user base, and they were like, now we're going to have a third one.
I wonder what the story was behind Go being successful, really, if you think about it. Like,
because it was actually different enough.
yeah, I guess enough time had passed. Maybe that's all it was. 1.6 and Source were just showing their age, and it's like, well, here's a slightly better one that's now all esported up.
Yes, I mean, it actually had more functionality.
I mean, if any game's going to be a legit esport game, might as well be Counter Strike, right? At least at the time.
I mean, it still is.
Yeah.
Still a big deal.
Right, that's the news. It's time for what have you been playing?
I did have one other tiny bit of news that I noticed. Very quietly, at some point, Red Out 2 got announced. And it's like, yes, I need my future racing fix.
You need them to be better.
Red Out Run was alright. I pretty much 100%ed that game. Other than the DLC. I didn't get the DLC. Probably should get the DLC. I've probably lost all my skill now, though, so it's like...
Can't go back.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you can't go back. You have to start over.
Start over, yeah. It was quite a long campaign in that thing. But yeah, Red Out 2 got announced. They did that Red Out sort of like space combat thing. Was their last project. They gave it the Red Out name, but it was like a... almost like an on-rail shooter, but apparently wasn't particularly well received. So I'm kind of happy they've gone back to what they got right the first time. And yeah, there's a trailer out. It looks good. It's got my future racing itch like flaring up. It's like it's just under my armpit on my right arm, just right there.
Is that where it is?
Just need to shove some anti-gravity right in there. Some AG balm.
AG Systems.
I played some of that recently, actually, as well. I've been,
Yeah, me too.
I mean, segue. Yeah, I've been getting back into my future races.
Yeah?
I played Wipeout Omega. I've played Fast Racing this week. I played some F-Zero this week.
Wow. Quite a smorgasbord of
smorgasbord.
future racing.
Absolutely.
Smorgasbord. You want to talk about it then? I mean, what you've been playing?
What I've been
Only
playing?
future races.
Yeah, I had a brief stint on... Let's talk about Wipeout first. Yeah, I had a brief return to that. The Omega Collection on PS4.
Yep. Me too. I played a bit of that.
Just because I was like, whenever I go back to that thing, I sort of realise it's like, yeah, I never really got through the what was it, with the PS Vita Wipeout content, particularly in that thing. I got through most of Wipeout HD's content again. But I haven't sunk enough time into the actual new stuff, I suppose, the last Wipeout. So yeah, I went back and did some more of that, and it's like it's one of those ones where I think like the problem with nearly every Wipeout game is like if you take them on there as individuals, they're almost always too slight, right? There's never quite enough tracks in any of them.
No,
and it's like, and that one in particular suffers from that. There's really not very many tracks at all in. I can't even remember its number. What is it? 2049, something like that. It's a little bit light, and
yeah.
But it is still and like the visual design, because it's like being like, oh, this is was it 2047? Because it's trying to be the earlier one, right? It's like it's the earliest Wipeout technically. Yeah, like
the difference.
Yeah, because like the track design, like they obviously hadn't landed quite. I guess in the timeline of Wipeout, they hadn't quite landed on tracks being designed in certain ways, so you end up being like quite busy city environments, which sometimes make actually seeing where the track is kind of difficult until you learn it.
Yeah.
So like returning to it after a while of absence is a little bit like, okay, I know there's a thing here somewhere. But there it goes. Like I know where it is now, but I couldn't see it the first time because the track design's quite busy, and it's like no amount of 4King it up seems to have really improved the readability of the tracks, which is a problem. Like I think previous Wipeout games have done that way better. Like this might be the first time where I've looked at a Wipeout game and been like, I'm not quite sure I understand this track.
Because it was, I guess, a deliberate effort to bring it closer to the present day in terms of having the cityscapes and even the handling and everything. I don't know, was more kind of car-like, I suppose, to some extent. Like it was supposed to be deliberate, that stuff. But yeah, I agree. I'd rather they stuck to. I know they were trying to go for something different, but like the more stylized, far future stuff made it easier to. I preferred the handling of it and made it easy to read the tracks to boot.
There's definitely some little touches here and there that I appreciate though, like the fact that all of the different brands of vehicle now have their own onboard voice and things like that. That's kind of nice. So like when you pick up things, like it will read it in the vehicle's voice. I think the AI voice that tells you that stuff is incoming is always the same. So like you're always hearing
missile.
Yeah, rockets. And they've tried to mix up the campaign of like all the levels a bit by like having weapon restrictions. So like you'll have a level where it's like only rockets and things like that, and as opposed to like being like, oh, this is a weapon race or this is not a weapon race. It's like, no, this is a rocket race. Which can sometimes add a little bit of variety, but
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
The core problem is like whenever they try and innovate, it's very rare that they try and innovate with success in Wipeout, right? Normally it's just all about the core racing. It's like, because like HD and I think it was introduced with Fury, where they introduced like basically weapon events where you score points for hitting stuff with weapons, and it's like, surely that's just a bit of a crapshoot. Then it's like whoever happens to be nearby, you just happen to have a weapon, and it's like you can. And then they introduced the 180 button, so you can turn around and fire backwards on those events as well. And it's like, this isn't really a skillful mode. This is just pick up weapon, shoot weapon, stay near the pack. It's like, it's not. There's not a lot of nuance to it, and it's like, yeah, Wipeout's all about going fast and winning races. It's like, and that's where it's still good. And they're like, the one good thing I guess they introduced in that era was zone mode, right? That was pretty neat.
Zone mode was cool.
Because I'm not even sure the variant they added of zone, which was the I forget what they call it, but it's the one where there's like mines all over the track. It's a bit like zone, but there's mines on the track as well, and you have to shoot those down to get time back. I think that was less successful.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's nice that they're there to mix things up.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's still a great game. I still don't think the Omega Collection is as essential as the PS3 version of HD and Fury, just because of the soundtrack changes. I think I'm warming up to that soundtrack slowly. Like I was kind of off it at first, thinking like this. It's a shame. It's just not as good as the one from HD and Fury.
I mean, I just use the PlayStation Spotify integration to play like whatever Wipeout playlist that I can find.
Sure, I've looked for those,
Spotify.
but like there's actually a surprising number of tracks that just aren't accessible on that thing. Like, even on Spotify,
true.
it's just like, oh, yeah, these tracks aren't on Spotify. Damn.
Yeah, how much cold storage can I get?
So I did that, and then the next thing I tried was I went back to F-Zero GX. I went back to my Dolphin version of it.
Is that the best available version?
Well,
Days.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a near perfect emulation now. Like, the very latest beta version of Dolphin, you'll do just fine. It hitches occasionally, which obviously the GameCube version didn't. So to call it a perfect version, like it's not quite as slick as I guess as it was back on the GameCube, but it's pretty close, and you can play it at like 4K and stuff like that, and it doesn't really tax modern PCs as much as you'd expect. So it's a good emulation now. So I went back into that. I've done everything in expert mode on that now. But I'm struggling to get back up to the master mode level because goddamn, that's hard. And I actually haven't earned enough credits to go through and do all the story missions yet. Because I had a weird system, didn't you? You had to unlock money. You had to earn enough money so you could buy the next chapter in the story. But completing a chapter in the story didn't give you enough money for the next chapters. You had to go away
progress.
and do some Grand Prix.
You had to grind, basically.
You had to grind, yeah. And I think you have to do that with the hard mode missions as well. I can't quite remember. Not sure. I think I just needed a bit of future cool this week, and it's like, yeah. F-Zero still has it in spades. Still love that soundtrack. Still love the how the cars feel. It's such a unique feeling games, even now. Like just the way the cars handle with their almost digital steering, but there's like certain vehicles have just enough drift that you barely notice, but it's there. You're sliding across the circuit. Like you just have to keep a handle on it. The one thing that and this may be an emulation problem because I don't remember it being quite so problematic in the GameCube one, is that when you reach, there are certain tracks where if you basically just go reach a certain speed or you're going too fast along a bit of track, you can just detach from it. And I think in the emulated version, I've detached from bits of upside down track that I never managed to detach from on the GameCube version. So I'm guessing there are some little emulation or timing issues where the physics go a bit wrong. Like one of the tracks in the first cup, I think it's called Lightning Split Loop. You're basically doing the same track, but instead of it really turning left and right all that much, you're basically going doing it like a loop the loop. So it will be the track one side, then you'll do the same track backwards, but it will be on the ceiling of the track. And I managed to get up to a certain speed on the ceiling where I just ended up detaching from the ceiling, and it's like, well, that's my race over. And I think it happens that used to happen on F-Zero X on like the high speed loop track. You could get to a certain speed and just fly off the track because you were going too fast. Right. So it's a weird problem to have where it's like, oh man, I was just too good at this track and I broke the game. But yeah, I did encounter that, and it's like I don't remember that being quite so bad in GX. But hey, that's still a hell of a game. Still love it to pieces. Yeah, and
still no hopes for any kind of sequel.
No, none at all.
We got this. We got this.
Not unless Nintendo rope into everything they've been talking about, like a new F-Zero and a Star Fox GP into whatever the new Mario Kart ends up being.
Can you imagine? I think it has to be a separate game. I don't think they could roll F-Zero into Mario Kart.
Mario Kart 9 had better just be like Super Smash Kart at this point.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Because they already started moving in that direction with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now that like Link and a squid, what are they called? Squidlings? Squid people from
Yeah.
from Splatoon, and a villager, or an Animal Crossing character of some sort. Now that they're in Mario Kart 8, it's like, they've already started going down this path. Just go all the way down it. Super Smash Kart. Come on, let's go.
But only if they actually make the characters matter.
Right, and
Yeah.
what they do in Smash Brothers, don't they? Well, you'd have to make like the carts. Well, it couldn't quite be as unique as they are Smash characters.
Well, the trouble is
You
that
could try.
they already have the cart customization, but that's not in any way tied to anything. It's just like you're just changing the stats, basically.
I mean, the character lightness is still probably
Yeah, I
to
guess,
play,
but
right?
that's only like one of 3 options.
Yeah.
It needs to be related to the power-ups if you're going to really do it. That's
Well-
where it has to come in. You have to have not just one specific power-up, even, but like maybe multiple.
Well, I haven't played it, but apparently that's a thing in Mario Kart Tour, the mobile one,
Right.
where like characters will have a unique power up.
Well, I mean, that's just double dash.
Yeah, exactly. But totally bring that back. That was a good system. There was a reason to pick a character, right?
Well, yeah, but in double dash, it was in no way, balanced.
I mean,
If you're going to do it for like a Super Smash Kart kind of thing, you'd have to have all the characters would have to have more than one, ideally, and you'd actually have to make some effort to make them all viable.
I don't know that you'd have to. It'd be fun to try, everyone. Depends how much they care about the online.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go fully Super Smash Bros, you have to have it so that you have to play everyone in a campaign kind of way, where every character has their own specific set of missions.
Yeah, I've heard that being thrown around as well, like a Diddy Kong Racing style campaign being added.
I mean,
These are all just rumours.
it wouldn't
though.
really
None
have
of
to be a
this is-
campaign.
That'd be cool.
It would just be like Smash Bros Classic mode, where you just have a set series of, in this case, racers with specific conditions.
Yeah, or even if there was just some subtle unlock where it's like you need to get so many wins with so many different characters that eventually it unlocks something new. Like, have a nice unlock system.
Yeah.
Have an incentive.
Basically just rip off Smash Bros in every aspect. That's what we're saying.
Nothing wrong with that.
Oh, it's their own game. They can do that.
They're allowed.
Yeah.
Nintendo's radio towers. Yeah. So then the last thing I
I
mucked.
picked Mario Kart for my fantasy football.
Yeah, if MK9 comes out this year, not to be confused with Mortal Kombat 9.
Yeah, sorry. What's the last thing you played?
Last thing I mucked around with was that Wii U gem from Shinen Entertainment, Fast Racing Neo, because I wanted to see how well that behaved on Cemu, which is the Wii U emulator. And as it turns out, very well indeed.
Well, I mean, that whole game was a situation of it running surprisingly well at the time, wasn't it?
That game is amazing. Technologically, on a console that was underpowered at the time, and it was doing rendering tricks that it probably shouldn't be doing. Yeah, it had some very aggressive dynamic resolution scaling going on, but yeah, Fast Racing Neo was a very impressive title for the Wii U. Less so for the Switch, because they didn't the Switch is obviously a more powerful machine. So Fast Racing RMX got some minor upgrades, but not a huge amount was done to it. It was a re-release after all. But yeah, Neo at the time was hella impressive. But now you can run it in Cemu. Like when you install Cemu, it gives you the option to be like, do you want to download a whole batch of community mods for a known list of graphics patches and things for games? And I'm like, yeah, go on then. And the one for Fast Racing Neo is just because it doesn't seem like there's when you're playing with most emulators, you get a resolution picker basically. Like, what graphics mode do you want to run this at? Do you want to run this at this? Do you want to see how it's like? Apparently, that's not really a thing that Cemu does. It's like the game has to come with a modifier for changing the resolution, in one of these packs. And Fast Racing just happens to have one, so you can go super high if you want. I ran into some problems running the game in Vulkan mode on the most recent build of Cemu, but running it in OpenGL mode, absolutely flawless. It is It runs wonderfully, very crisp. Again, has a couple of hitches here and there, a little bit like F-Zero GX. Like it's not a super perfect emulation, but it's good enough. And did a few races on that, and it just reminded me how much I freaking love that game. It's so good. Like if ever there was an F-Zero like successor, this is it. It's like it's the closest thing you're gonna get. It doesn't handle the same, but like the cars are definitely heavier, and it's definitely a weightier feeling game than F-Zero, but it definitely gets the spirit of it, 100%.
So would you play the emulated Fast Racing Neo over the RMX one on the Switch?
It's tempting. It really is, because like, RMX doesn't change a huge amount. They mix up like where the cups are, what tracks are in what cup, and things like that. But ultimately, the content's the content, and RMX adds a couple of new things. So one of the things I did look into actually before trying Fast Racing Neo was doing a little bit of research to see if you can run Fast Racing RMX inside Yuzu, and Yuzu is the Switch emulator, which I'm going to put out there and say maybe don't look at a console that is already that is still out and still viable. That's possibly a little dodgy. I mean, even more so than emulation is normally. Shaky ground, but I thought I own this game. Let's give this maybe I should give this a go. No, Fast Racing RMX totally isn't supported yet.
Fair.
You can't do it.
What does work on that thing then?
Apparently, Hyrule Warriors works quite well.
Right. Maybe slightly improve the frame
Yeah,
rate.
it's Breath of the Wild, obviously.
Yeah, because there's so many like mods and 4K runs. Some of those are actually running on Cemu for the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild. But yeah, Breath of the Wild is runnable on Yuzu now. Yeah, so Fast Racing Neo, still a hell of a game. I'm excited. We haven't heard what Shin'en are up to now, so I'm excited to hear what the last thing they put out was The Tourist, which I played I think a couple years ago, which was good, but it's no fast racing. So I really want them to come back and make another Fast Racing. Come on, you're good at this.
So that's your future racing kick this week. What else have you been playing?
That was my fix. I've been playing quite a lot of Halo Infinite still. Mm-hmm. And I'm beginning to think
or
multiplayer, yeah. Because I finished the campaign. I haven't really gone back to it since I finished it. It's like I haven't really had the draw to do that. I think I talked about it already, but I did that one session where I went and mopped up a few things off the map. But yeah, after that, it's like, no, I'm not fussed. It's had its time. But yeah, I've been spending a great deal of time in the multiplayer instead. And I think my honeymoon period with it is starting to come to an end. If you see what I mean. I don't know if something has changed or if the player base is starting to switch around, but it feels like there's less. It's got to the point where I feel like I'm coming across against way more players that are often frequently much better than I am, than I was like a few weeks ago. Which is fine. I guess that happens. Like I know I suck. That's not a problem. But it's like it's frustrating to always be paired with really good players. Or I'm getting paired with, or people are just playing on PC more. It's hard to tell, honestly. Kipper seems to think he can tell whether they're a PC player or a console player, and I'm like, well, unless I'm watching them and how they aim, I'm not sure I can. Like he said, there's like, oh, you can see it on their profile page, and I went and had a look, and I have no idea where he's getting that information from. Probably an excuse. Sorry, Kips. But I can believe that, right? Because now it's on both platforms, and there's no options to disable crossplay or anything like that. It's maybe it's taking off well on the PC, which is good for Halo. But like, I want to play it on the Xbox, and if I'm disadvantaged there, maybe I shouldn't be playing it on the Xbox. I don't know. I don't know. Also, like I'm starting to get like a little bit fed up with some of the little problems that it has. Most of the time, they're not actually little problems with the game design. Like, okay, yes, stuff occasionally happens in game where you're just like, what the hell just happened? probably lag, the usual, unavoidable. But there are bits where like there's just straight up the UI doesn't work in the menus, like in between games, where like one of the things I like if you want to see your current challenge list, sometimes that just doesn't straight up load. Like it would just be on the spinner for being like, oh, I need to see what challenges you want me to do next, so I can actually earn progression in the season pass, so I can get that XP, that sweet XP, and level up. Or if they've got a limited time event on, I want to see how I get my weird unicorn horns. What challenge have I got next to get? And that bit of interface just frequently just doesn't load for me. And that can be fixed by restarting the game, but I don't really want to do that that much. It's kind of against the whole Xbox philosophy of quick resume, really.
Yeah, totally.
So that's kind of odd. And sometimes the wait to get into a game can be excruciating. Not because it doesn't match you fast. It does match and set up a server pretty quickly, but sometimes though it will sit there being like waiting for other players to load, and that naturally can take forever sometimes, and that's probably the other player's fault because they have terrible machines or whatever. But then there are times where you get into the game and it just doesn't seem like you'll be sat on the introduction to the map, and it will just be rotating through the camera angles forever. And you're just waiting for the game to start, and it's like, come on. I think it's like following standard Halo launch trajectory. Like at this point, standard 343 Halo trajectory. I guess it needs tightening up a bit.
Is there hope that will be accomplished then, based on prior 343 games?
Oh, I 100% have faith that they will do it eventually, but eventually kind of needs to be sooner, I think, than their current speed. Speed. I think they do need to start thinking about throwing in more content, more meaningful content at this point. Like they added a new mode for the event that's running at the moment called Attrition, which is basically a team slayer, but there's a limited pool of respawns. So when your team runs out of respawns, you're down and you're out basically. And you can be revived at that point, which I guess is a new mechanic, but that's crazy dangerous. And I'm not sure I'm having a huge amount of fun with Attrition. It's like I think the idea is fine. It's just not as fun as regular Team Slayer. I don't know. It's. I mean, I play Halo for the fun factor, and that it's more fun than most other shooters. And it's like when you're introducing a mode where it's like this is like Halo but less fun. It's like it doesn't necessarily appeal to me all that much. And yeah, I think that's been a bit of a problem. Like when the event forces you into attrition mode effectively if you want to do things for the event, and it's like it's a less fun mode, then that's kind of irritating. I think they need to potentially work on. Well, they are still working on their progression, and they did put out a thing saying you'll be able to earn the in-game currency next season, not this season, which runs all the way up until May. By the way,
right?
But next season they'll let you start earning currency through gameplay as opposed to you having to buy it. Like if you want to buy cosmetics and things. But it's like, yeah, that's a long way away.
Yeah, and then it'll be a trickle presumably.
Yeah, I want some more maps. Yeah. I want some more meaningful maps. There's only 2 big team battle maps at the moment, so if you're into your big team battles, that's like slim pickings for you.
The Blood Gulch on repeat.
Blood Gulch isn't even there.
Well, you think it'd be even easier than usual for them to just forge some maps up, since they've got basically a giant open world that they can just put walls in and then have to make maps out of it.
I mean, sure, but Forge isn't there yet,
well, no.
Right? This is part of the problem. I forget which one. I think it was Reach, right, where they had a nice rotation of Forge maps that started entering the mode. It wasn't there at first, but after a little bit, they basically started promoting Forge-made maps into the main rotations. And those were good. Sometimes those were the best damn levels in the game. The ones that were made in Forge, and it's like it would be nice to see that coming about. At the moment, the community's unable to make anything themselves, really, which is unusual.
I'm assuming that everything is still basically just like a Halo map at this point, where it's just like they're all enclosed still, right? They haven't gone like Titanfall, where it's like it looks like it's open, but there's invisible walls and death fields and stuff.
Well, I mean, you've still got your open, like outdoorsy levels, I suppose, if you mean, with like a death hole in it and things like that. There's still death holes, and you can still jump out of bounds and die.
Yeah, but I meant if they were to just make multiplayer levels out of the single player maps, where they could just like say this is the capture point or whatever, or for whatever mode, this is a flag base, and just put two things into the open world, but not have to like build a stupid looking wall around it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how they would do that, because there's no example of that so far. Yeah.
Because that's not what Halo maps are usually like.
I mean,
they usually are quite enclosed.
I'm trying to remember how they did it in Reach, because the Reach gave you a sort of little sandboxy area, right? It gave you like a green bit of Halo.
Yeah, the weird Forge map.
Yeah, that you could then build stuff in, and a lot of the Forge maps ended up just being floating metal blocks in the sky. But some of them did actually incorporate bits of the terrain, and I forget how they blocked it off.
Mostly just giant walls, I think.
Probably just impenetrable walls.
And they would.
Or do they put those there was that one level in, was it Halo 3 or something, where they put like a minefield outside the level?
Well, there were just straight up kill boxes in Reach's Forge, weren't there? If you went into the zone, you just died.
Probably. Yeah.
So you could probably easily put those around the map.
I mean, I have got to areas in some of the Infinite levels where I've got that return to battlefield warning.
Right.
Like, because I got too high up a building, and it's like, nah, this is a bit scummy. And it's like, well, I've got the grappling hook. What do you expect me to do?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Get punted back into the level motocross madness style.
Oh, they should totally do that. Just man cannon you off areas you're not supposed to be. It's like, good luck, you could land anywhere. Ha. I suppose that could be the risk. You get up to that point and then be like, right, I've got a few seconds to do some sniping.
And then 10-second countdown, and then you get punted.
But then the man cat, that could be a tactic, like, though. That's the problem with that, I suppose.
Could throw you to like the flag or something.
Yeah. Get man cannon somewhere useful. I guess it would have to be random, right? Like any one of 360 degrees, you're getting shot in that direction.
Well, not really 360. Presumably it'd have to be 180 to be only away from the outside of the map that you're trying to get to.
Or maybe it literally just throws you out of the map and you die.
But then why not just have that kill you?
Yeah, I know. That's kind of what it does right now. Just counts down and kills you.
Yes.
Anyway, so that's
Halo.
That's me in Halo right now. And obviously, following on from last week, I've been playing a heck a ton of Yakuza 4.
Mm-hmm. Yakuza 4. How many different characters have you played through now?
So, technically, I've played through the first 4. They're not called chapters now. They're called parts. The first 4 parts. So I have played as Kiryu finally.
Ooh,
and his part is actually really short. His part is like, because you play through these first 4 parts, and the 5th part is entitled Finale. And Kiryu's part is actually one of the shortest. It probably is the shortest of the 4, which has been which was quite disappointing, really. And his link to the whole storyline is so tenuous.
Really?
It's like, you don't need to be here, Kiryu. Why are you here? Why are you even getting involved?
It's not here for very long.
No, it's so I mean, it's a massive coincidence that one of the other main characters just happens to wash up on the beach outside Kiryu's orphanage at the start of part 2. And then another character that is from Kiryu's past washes up on the exact same beach later on in the the
Is this to do with the currents or whatever in Tokyo Bay? Or something?
Yeah, everyone goes to Okinawa, it seems.
Oh, in Okinawa, right.
It's contrived to the extreme. But like, yeah, Kiryu really doesn't need to be involved in this situation. But he for some reason has a loyalty to his old clan that he's no longer a part of, and hasn't been a part of technically for any of the games really. It's so odd. But he's an absolute monster in this. He levels up super fast. He's mega strong by the time you get hold of him. So it's like playing in Kiryu is just a hell of a lot of fun because it's just like I'm just going to destroy everything. Yeah, he's definitely the fun mode. But yeah, as I say, I got through all of that, and unfortunately, his revelation is the same as it was from Yakuza 3. So it's the same as Akiyama's basically. He just whips out his phone and goes "Orewa," and takes a load of pictures and blogs about it. No new revelations. But yeah, so I've been basically going through like going back and like before like even starting any of the main storylines in the finale chapter. It finally gives you the ability to be, hey, you can be any one of the 4 characters now. Go do your side stuff if you want. So it's like, okay, I will. So I've basically done all of the first characters like side stuff now. Whose side stuff is actually really weird, like because half of it you have to go back in time for. And there's like there isn't time travel. It's just that when his side stuff has to take place, involves a character that leaves during his part. So like you have to reminisce about that character in your seat in the office, and then all of a sudden like you're back in time like to when you could have done those side stories. But I love that as like a construct. It's like you have to go back to your office, sit in your chair, and be like, I'm going to reminisce about Hannah, and then you just sort of you're in the world again where you can do what you need to do the stuff you missed.
Does it do like a wavy harp sound? Like,
it really should. It does do a fade to white, which is kind of painful on the eyes. But yeah, so I've done a lot of his stuff, and he's got a lot of side stuff, as it turns out. Like I thought, like maybe Saejima and Kiryu like didn't appear to have that much side stuff going on, but Akiyama had like loads. And maybe that's just because like some of it is gated, some of it is sequential now. Like you don't just discover every sub-story like as the story progresses. It's like, no, you've got to progress sub-stories to unlock more sub-stories. It's like they chain together frequently. And it's almost like a different game. Just dicking around doing the side stories whilst the main story is on hold. It's weird. I spent several hours on Saejima's Fighter Maker. I think I talked about that before, but it's kind of like the Hostess game, but done a bit better. You're training up people in your dojo to be.
Yeah, you did. You mentioned that. Yeah.
It's like training up and fighting in the Colosseum, but you're not doing the fighting. You're just it's Pokemon battles, but not even that detailed. But yeah, I've sunk several hours into that. It's strangely addictive. Just that one bit, just that one thing. I will return to Tanemura and Kiryu. Tanemura ended up having a pretty decent. I think his storyline on its own has actually been one of the best. Like his it's a little bit detached, I think, from the other parts, but as a nice like individual storyline, I think that ended up working the best. And then it ends up obviously getting roped into the main plot properly. And they actually do this. The thing the Yakuza games seem always pretty good at is, okay, they're great at referencing their previous outings. Like they really do lean on. It's like, hey, do you remember that thing that happened before? Of course you do. We know you've played every game, apparently. So we're going to lean heavily on your remembering of that story. And it's like they do it. Like at the end of part 3 and the start of part 4, they do a massive recontextualization of what happened in the events of the first game, like what the first game was in theory, like a layer above what you thought was happening in the first game. No, there was this other thing that was like which was why everything in the first game was a thing, and you're like, oh, mind blown.
Really?
Like,
oh, God.
It's just like, this is what it was really about. I still don't know why you care, Kiryu, but oh my gosh. And I still haven't had like a golden castle come out of the ground, so you know it's not it's still not Yakuza 1 levels of awesome. Hey, it's a lot of fun. I'm still having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to stand by original statements. I think, and that I think it's probably the weakest of the bunch I've played so far. But hey, it's still a Yakuza game. You know what you're getting.
Yeah, and you're on a journey to get through. There's plenty more to go.
You're on a ride, man.
Yeah, maybe if this one didn't quite tickle your fancy with its split up of multiple characters, next will be back on form.
I mean, I went bowling. It was the same bowling game they had in the previous game.
Of course.
Yeah, hadn't changed at all.
I mean, that's what's important in the new games is how have they refreshed the mini games.
Absolutely.
If it's just the same games, then that's no fun. Is it?
Yeah, I went batting. It's the same game as it was in Yakuza 3. That's a shame. Played some pool. Pretty much the same. Played some darts. I mean, I think in a weird way, that's probably one of the bigger disappointments. It's like, I guess they don't have to do it so much in this one because they've done it in previous games, but I feel like the previous games did a much better job of pushing you in the direction of the minigame stuff. To be like, there was sometimes a story reason, or there was sometimes a sub-story that would suggest you should probably go do this thing.
Like that stupid that happens in Grand Theft Auto games at the start, right? Where it makes you do the stupid mini game.
It's not quite as annoying as Nico, we should go bowling.
We're going to go bowling.
I mean, there's usually only like one thing that might suggest that. I mean, like, if you think about Yakuza Kiwami 1, like the Majima Everywhere system meant you should probably go do everything because there's a really good because there's a really good chance there's a special Majima event at this location. At every location, because it's Majima everywhere. Majima's been in this game for like a split second. It's really depressing. Like, he's not nearly in this enough, and he's not wild enough. I think there we go. That sums up Yakuza 4. Just not wild enough. And that's been my 2 weeks in games.
Not quite.
Because what have you played together?
The traditional segment.
The transitional segue is...
And actually, there are a couple of other things I forgot. I briefly played some more Mud Runners with the Cambridge crew the other night.
Everyone does.
That game is still stupid.
Yeah.
Yep.
How is that a thing? I don't even get... Don't get me wrong. The Cambridge crew are awesome, but I do not understand their game taste sometimes. It's all right. It's all right. It has its moments. And we actually played some Rainbow Six again. And I tried playing it against humans. I've decided I don't like that game.
Obviously.
Yeah. Like I don't like playing its main mode. Playing like the training is like it's like against AI kind of as a team like grouping up and just trying to beat
clear them. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually kind of fun. Like that kind of that Ghost Recon kind of way, right? Like that's still kind of entertaining. But no, I don't think I'm into that multiplayer at all. I just don't like how it plays. Don't like how it feels. So Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah, Hyrule Warriors.
Well, I know another thing that you played.
Oh, what else have I played? Oh, yeah. Oh, 2 more things that I played, actually. Oh my gosh, this has been a busy couple of weeks. And like
For small things,
the thing you're thinking of is like Lethal League Blaze,
Yeah.
right? I started playing the campaign for that.
Yeah.
Just because I had
you had a need.
I had a need. Yeah, this was sort of following on from the future racing thing. I just needed that kind of vibe, right?
Yeah.
Like I needed.
I
that.
think as soon as I heard you talking about the vibe of Future Racing, I was like, oh yeah, that's why he played Lethal League then.
That's absolutely
Because
why.
he was in a future vibe.
Absolutely. I just cracked on with some Lethal League Blaze story, and it's like, yep, that's it's what you expect, I guess. Just played some Lethal League against the computer with some hella cool music. That's all I needed.
Did you find out why his hat was so big?
No, I haven't found out why his hat's so big. I got to the scene where obviously he just goes, wait, why is his hat so tall? And why is he squatting?
Yep, and why is he squatting?
And your boy Candyman.
Yep. And the one time you have to do that stupid mission, that stupid game type with the targets or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And it's unreasonably difficult
It's
because
really difficult.
you totally don't know how to even do that.
Yeah, it was really surprisingly hard. Yeah, that caught me off guard.
Yeah, that was like it's the hardest part of that whole campaign, probably, apart from
really?
the last boss, I guess.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Like it's terribly written.
Well,
right?
yes.
But like it's all right. Lethal League's a hell of a game. I'm so excited. It just got me excited for Bomb Rush again.
Well, yeah, that's definitely the future aspect. Hyping you up for that one as well.
Please don't suck. I hope Bomb Rush is good.
I mean, I was actually sort of tempted to install Hover, the sort of free running, like we're trying to capture the Jet Set Radio vibe game that came out a few years back. Well, it's got a couple of Hideki tracks on it.
Yeah, but then you could just go to YouTube.
Then you just and I've listened to those tracks to death already. It's like they are pretty good. It's Hideki. Yeah, so I did that. And the other thing I've tried, only for like an hour, is Windjammers 2.
Oh,
It came out.
Yeah.
And it came out on Game Pass.
No.
Hells yeah.
Zach, have you tried this? Or
no.
Is it just Rob? Okay.
No, I've only played it for like an hour, like one
Right,
evening.
right.
It got to awkward o'clock, which is just like an hour before I intend on sleeping. It's like it's awkward o'clock. And it's like, well, let's give this a quick go. Windjammers 2 is Windjammers with very little else. Like, they haven't added a huge amount to it. There's no, like, campaign or anything. There's no, like... I don't think they've particularly added any real mini-game stuff. They've added a couple more mechanics. Like, you can now jump. You can jump. I'm going to cough. I'm talking too much. I'm reaching that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if the thing where, like in Windjammers, if you like snap it and you catch it at the right moment, it pops the disc into the air, so you charge up underneath it and things like that. Mm-hmm. Like they explain how that works. I guess they don't really explain it particularly. They just say like, oh, if you push A just before catching it or something, then you'll block and you can bunt it into the air, and that's how you charge. But like, instead of just sitting underneath it and waiting for something to charge up, you can now jump into it if you want to, and then smash it down onto the ground. And there's for a miss point, like instead of getting it into the goals at the back of the arena. There's also there's a slight more emphasis on lob shots. There's a couple of special lobs you can now do. But other than that, I think the rest of the game is pretty much identical to how Windjammers was. Except for, I don't think the new style carries as much, oh my god, what the hell is going on?
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to compare to old school ridiculous pixel art.
I mean, yeah. I don't have a problem with the look. They're trying to capture the vibe of the original. And I think, because it's the same team that did Streets of Rage 4, right? They do an admirable job of using that same graphic style as they did in Streets of Rage 4 here, but in a very different vibe. And it just, I mean, it looks clean and it looks fine, but it's like, there's something about the effects just aren't mad enough, right? It's like, it's the Yakuza problem. It's just not wild enough. It's like, even when the specials are popping off and things, like it played like absurdly loud sound effects in the original, like when it's doing this little weird sort of noises as your disc is like wibbling around all over the place. And I guess there weren't really much in the way of opacity effects back on the Neo Geo, so everything's like super vibrant and nuts. And like even when the disc is just bouncing off the edges of the arena, right? It's that super loud doosh doosh doosh.
Yeah.
All of that's toned down, and it's like, and I think that's a problem. Like it doesn't necessarily make the game mechanically worse. It just makes me less enthused about the madness.
Yep. Basically the same as Lethal League.
Yeah.
You want it to be exploding.
Absolutely. You want it to be as mental as possible, as much as possible.
And then Hyrule Wars. Let's finish off Rob's section so he can stop talking.
So I can stop talking and regain my
so
throat
you can
power.
take a breath.
Well, you can talk about it. Let's go on.
No, I guess. We got 4 more characters.
Okay.
4.
Kind of. I think this was another situation where I had at some point been spoiled about it, but I didn't really remember. But as soon as it started happening, I was like, oh yeah, of course.
As soon as it started going down this particular path, you were just like, oh yeah, of course we're going to get those guys.
I mean, it wasn't... you wouldn't necessarily be able to predict that was how it was going to go, really.
not necessarily.
But like as soon as it starts, you're like, okay, I guess that makes sense.
And
for as much as anything in this game makes sense.
Sure. But it does something that it's never done before, right? It has a little when you load the levels or start the levels where you're about to encounter these characters, it's like they give you a little tease.
Well,
like there's a little audio cue that they've not used before, and it's just
not in this context anyway.
No, and it just sort of happens, and there's a little change in the UI when you start the level, and you're like, wait, what the hell is that?
Well, because on all the other characters we've unlocked, they've been the bosses of the unlock missions, basically, because they're side characters. Yeah. Whereas these are in the main story. So when you start this mission, it shows you this little hint that you're about to get some more characters.
There's only 2 of the characters so far have been technically side, right? The fairies and Monk.
I don't know what... Did Hestu have any indication on that mission? Because he was in a main story mission.
Yeah, Hestu was definitely mainline.
I don't think it had... Because obviously there's no time travel involved.
I don't I think every time we've encountered a new character, like, it hasn't done this queue.
Well, no, because none of the other ones would have this same reason to have that queue.
Yeah, I don't think it gave you a hint that you were going to get someone new. Like, if you know what I mean, you just
not in the history mission.
It just started the level.
Yeah,
and then there was like, surprise, you can now be this character, and it's like, sorry, what? Okay, cool. But no, this teased you, and it was cool. Like, I don't know, it's just that little thing. It was just like, just gets you so hype. It's just like, what was that?
But yes, in case you haven't figured it out from us talking about time travel, we're now in the realm of we've just got characters from Breath of the Wild in this game.
The future has come back.
Which is weird, as I pointed out to Rob when we were playing it, because obviously one of these characters is Sidon, and he's actually alive in the past at the same time as this game.
Don't see yourself.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to address that at all at any point.
They're going to totally meet each other and just be like, this is weird.
Yeah. And then I thought about it a bit more, and it was like, if you follow that line of thought a bit further, what's also slightly weird is that, like, Daruk and Urbosa must have children at this point.
What's 100? Oh, yes.
Yeah, they must have children
Yeah,
to be able to have descendants.
That's true.
Not Rivali, though, because I don't think Teba is actually a descendant of Rivali.
How does it even work, though, in the Gerudo, like...
Don't even try and think about that civilization.
Some sort of sperm donor somewhere.
Well, they do mention that in Breath of the Wild, right? Because a lot of them just go and marry the other races, and you just have to assume that just works somehow.
So Urbosa and Daruk, right?
Yeah, they must have actual children at this point in the Hyrule Warriors timeline, because we've reached the point where they would have died in Breath of the Wild. So their children must already be alive.
That's true.
Maybe it happened in a Daruk sandstorm.
But yes.
Daruk and Urbosa got together.
Well, maybe. But we haven't played these new characters more than once. And in some cases, we haven't played them at all. Because we've only just done the 2 missions that they were unlocked in. So
they were kind of like when you get introduced to them in the middle of a tricky boss fight.
Yeah,
right? Like,
and you get locked into... Well, you don't really get locked in.
One player gets locked into being...
Well, you don't exactly get locked. I mean, it's like whoever triggers the sequence to board the Divine Beast becomes that player, and then the other player can still be the other person, but you have to change before you enter that sequence.
Yeah, there was a way of gaming it so we could get the character we wanted.
Because we died a lot.
Yeah, the fights were kind of tricky. The boss fights here were tricky.
Because you're fighting the blights, obviously. Inside the Divine Beast also, so it's like an arena fight. Not that that's really that much different from any other boss in that game, really, but...
Not especially.
You can't run away, that's for sure.
Yeah, not a chance here.
But yes, those new characters are... They are still managing to come up with slightly new variations on the same concept, although...
Fight with a sand walrus, baby!
Yes.
Swing my sand walrus around.
Bring the sand seal in.
Sand seal, yeah.
And waft it around.
So stupid.
But I mean, they could quite easily have gotten away with these new mechanics being just different weapons for the old characters, in the same way as Link has different weapons that give him different styles.
They probably could have,
because they all use the same weapons. Yeah. It's like Sidon just uses 2 lances instead of 1.
Link is essentially just 3 different characters,
yeah.
like just rolled into one because he's got the weapon system.
Yeah. So they could have done that with these guys, but obviously they had this weird story moment to bring the future into the past.
It is funny, though.
And Sidon gets giant water fish all over the place.
Yep.
That's his weird new power that they've invented.
Water whales.
And his mechanic is actually kind of probably the most complicated one, really, because his is actually the character specific button, the trigger, is basically just another step in the combo. So it's having another button instead of just heavy and light, but it's actually timing based. So you actually have to push it at the right time to get the full effect.
Huh.
Which is kind of cool. It does make that combo a bit more extensive. Not that it's that tricky to hit. It's quite a generous window, I guess. And if you screw it up, you still get the attack. It's just not as powerful.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't cancel out of it or anything.
Okay.
Although I guess the powered up versions can do slightly different things. Like the one that does where if you do it at the right time, you just do a huge dash. I mean, there's lots of huge dashes.
There's a lot of huge dashes, yeah.
But that one in particular, if you don't do it, you just don't go anywhere.
So madness still ensuing.
Yes, but I mean, it's like this madness we could have been talking about 2 podcasts ago. It's just that because we've been doing all the side stuff, we haven't done main missions for such a long time, and now it's like, oh, we're finally going to get to them.
No, we took a week off from doing any main missions because
at least a week.
Yeah, so much side stuff was popping up.
I guess we did do one more main mission, the actual Calamity mission, quite recently. Yeah. But then before that, there was an even longer time of side stuff.
And there doesn't seem to be that much side at the moment. No, we've got to this point. We're probably not far away from more main. So more updates next week.
Maybe. We'll see.
Keeps on giving.
Yes, although we've definitely reached the point where there's too many characters for us to just we were leveling everyone up, and that's just we're not doing that any longer.
Yeah, there was enough side stuff where you could balance around and be like, well, let's grab this guy for a bit, get their level.
But luckily they allow you to work around that because there's just a training camp that lets you
exchange money for experience.
Well, you pay money to level characters up to whatever your maximum level is.
Yeah.
So whoever's the highest, you can just keep everyone up to that level.
And it's not that expensive either.
No.
But I guess as we get more and more characters, it gets more expensive.
More expensive. Yeah. We have so much money anyway. And we've always had so much money. It's just that money is not a problem in that game in general, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think we're gaining it faster as well. We're getting the bigger rupee numbers are turning up. The different colours of rupees seem to be more frequent.
Although the mission rewards are always set. They max out at 200 for each of those free stats, basically. Yeah. Time and kills and I don't remember what the other one is.
It's definitely not finesse.
No. So that's Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors. What game?
What game?
And then what I've been playing, I guess.
I should probably
what
see
have you been
that
playing,
thing.
Zach, beyond that?
Well, what I've been playing is 3 things to talk about. I continue playing Pokemon Pearl. And
not Shining Pearl or whatever it's called.
Just the regular one. And then, the more of it I played, I realised that there is one major problem with this Pokemon game, which is that a lot of the opposing trainers just have 3 of the same Pokemon, and it's just that's really boring.
Oh, that is quite dull.
What? How come?
I don't know. I don't know why they didn't mix it up more. I mean, obviously they're deliberately working from a limited set because this is the age of the Pokemon games where they were each game has the 150 or so that you're going to see during the story and then the rest afterwards.
Then you get the rest, right?
So it is still working from a limited pool, but I don't know, there's just probably the majority of traders are just I've got 3 Kadabras or 3...
What? You didn't get that in the original game, and you only 150 Pokemon in existence.
Well, I feel like in the original game they had a lot more that just had 1.
Yeah,
that's true.
But having 3 of the same, you might as well just have 1 with 3 times as much health because there's functionally it's not actually any different gameplay wise. In fact, it's actually easier than having 1 that had 3 times as much health because every time you kill one, it basically cancels the attack that they would have been doing.
They lose a turn, don't they? Essentially.
So yeah, it's kind of sucky. And it's not even that's not even just because I've got my super over-leveled starter and I'm just one-hitting everything. So if you were playing it for real, it would be the same problem because you'd just be like, oh, I've changed to whatever Pokemon is super effective, and then that Pokemon would just stay in for the next 3 Pokemon because they're all the same.
Yeah, but it'd be okay if like they had a type and they were all like water Pokemon.
Not really though, because then super effective. I mean,
super effectiveness would probably still be the same.
Yeah.
It's still got to be. In
that's
your
what I mean.
6, right?
Like, but at least that would be better than that. Would still be bad, but it would at least be better.
it would look better.
Yeah.
And it could have slightly been solved by this is the start of the age of like dual types. So if you have like fishermen or whatever who have to have all water Pokemon, obviously, but there's opportunities to have the second type be something different.
That's true. Yeah.
Not much options, and in the vast majority of cases, whatever you're using that's super effective with water is still going to be super effective, unless the second type counters it, in which case it'll be neutral. So yeah, I've been playing that, and although I feel like I've not been playing much of the actual game. Like I've been doing lots of little side bits, and then like, oh yeah, I should probably get around to spending some time in actually doing the actual main quest. And I also kind of forgot that like the main quest in Pearl is weird because I don't know if they were deliberately trying to mix things up, but they made it so that like the hidden machines that you need to get the progression moves like cut or whatever, those you used to just automatically get them as you progress through the story as you needed them, obviously, because that was how they gated areas of the map. And they still do use them as things to gate the areas of the map, but for some reason they decided like most of the hidden machines are just going to be in like random side areas where it's just like, oh, you can go up this like ghost graveyard tower or whatever, like there are often in Pokemon games, off the side of this route, and you can go in. It never tells you to go in there, and you can go in there, and then at the top you just get one of the HMs, but you can't use them until you have the specific badge from the gym that will let you use it. It's just like they've weirdly decoupled the HMs from being. They are still strictly necessary for progress. It just doesn't necessarily tell you where they are or lead you directly to them.
Oh wait, so they are necessary for progress?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
There'll still be routes that are blocked off by trees or whatever that you have to cut, but I mean, there will usually be someone at the point where you need to progress who mention that there's this place where you can go to get an HM, but they're not like, it's not nearly as direct. And also the other weird thing related to that is that like the story of the game, like the whole evil Team Galactic are doing evil things and whatever, that like finishes before you're done with the gyms. So like I've got the legendary Pokemon, I've got Palika, the Pearl legendary Pokemon, but I've still got one more gym to go. And obviously the Elite Four after that. It's just kind of weird that it's just like it wraps up the whole major story and then it's just like, okay, now go back to your regular trainer life, I guess.
Weird, isn't it?
Not that that's not weird anyway every time. I suppose technically I don't remember. I guess it must be post game that I haven't got the other legendary. I guess I haven't got literal God.
God in Pokemon form.
Yeah, I've only got the God of Space.
It's not like that Star Trek movie.
Well, not
They
quite.
take the Enterprise to go and meet God.
I mean literal physical space, like in physics, because obviously Diamond it's the God of time.
Ah.
And then you put them together, and then you get regular God. Oh no, I don't think you do put them together. I think that's just unrelated. It's the stupid creation myth that this region of Pokemon extrapolates on, where it's like first there was the singular God Pokemon, and he made the 2 space and time Pokemon, and then they made 3 like emotion Pokemon, and then they created the world.
Emotion Pokemon.
I haven't caught them yet either, because I guess I can go do that maybe now. Because you free them and from the evil team and all that stuff, as you do. It's Pokemon. So there's that.
So there's no Dragon Ball fusion you can do between those two.
I don't think so. That's what I was trying to remember, but I don't think so. Also, obviously, I can only get one of the pair in this game because it's
sure.
the Diamond and Pearl separation.
Yep.
Unless you're playing Platinum, in which case you can get both of them. Because that's what they did back in the olden days of the third
Why
game.
aren't you playing Platinum?
Because I don't have Platinum. Because I actually have Pearl.
Oh, I see.
Also, Platinum, I think, was kind of weird. Because Platinum, obviously in the first 3 games, when they did these third versions, they didn't do nearly as much to modify them. But by this point, they were actually making the third games like slightly different. Like, I think in Platinum, the weather is like completely different, and it's like fucked up for story reasons that are related to Platinum's story, which isn't just the same as the story of Pearl and Diamond. It's like it has the same story, but then it has like this extra bit on top of that makes the world different. And you can get different Pokemon, and the weather conditions actually affect battles, of course, because they do that in Pokemon. Which is always annoying when you're like, I just want to get through this, but I'm fighting in a rainy area, which means every battle there's going to be an extra text box every turn to tell me it's raining.
Yeah, I didn't think of just putting an icon somewhere.
Yeah. God damn you, Pokemon, and your extremely slow text boxes, even if you turn them up to fast. And obviously Nintendo-style excessive text boxes.
Yeah.
And Nintendo-style, here's a thing you can buy, but you can only buy one at a time, and you have to hit A through the text every single time.
Oh, God, right.
Classic old-school design problems of these kind of games.
Not even that old school, though, for Nintendo, though, is it? They
No,
still do it.
current Nintendo design problems. And then another thing I played I guess, demo of, although it's called a prologue, so I mean, it's basically a demo, was of a weird, like, I think I'd heard of this game, even though it has a super generic name, because it's called Planet Crafter.
Right.
But I think I'd heard of it from some YouTube channel or something that I was looking at. And I was like, oh yeah, I vaguely remember people talking about that. Maybe I should just go look at it because they put out this prologue thing. And imagine a indie developer having a meeting and being like, what game are we going to make? And then someone says Subnautica, and then everyone waits for them to say but, and then they don't.
Oh.
Except it does have a but. It's Subnautica, but without water.
Right.
So you're basically just stranded on this planet, and you have to build a base, and you harvest minerals, and you progress up this little tech tree. I guess the sort.
So it's Super
Nautica.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess the slightly different thing is that the idea is that you're meant to be terraforming the planet. So the technologies that you're unlocking, you build buildings that are sort of attached to your base, but not really. They run off an invisible power grid, essentially, but you build these buildings that are meant to gradually improve the conditions of the planet. So the first stage is like you're unleashing underground gas deposits to build up the atmosphere, and then maybe one day eventually you'll get to plants, but that's not in the demo, obviously. But yeah, it's basically the exact same systems as Subnautica, only just not as good. And like kind of not as good in that kind of indie, like, thoughtless way where like they haven't really understood why things worked the way they did in like Subnautica. Like, for example, in Subnautica you have to swim around and look for resources, like, you know, the little chunks of resources you get in the early game. And in Subnautica they're all encased in little rocks that are generally like attached to the walls of caves and cliffs and whatnot, and you just hit them and the resources come out. And then there's different tiers of those rocks as you progress further into different biomes or deeper underwater. You can get the rarer materials. But in Planet Crafter, the materials are just scattered randomly across the terrain everywhere. And it's hella ugly. And it's like there's no progression to like... Well, there is a tiny bit of progression. There's like one of the caves has a specific resource that spawns more. But it's just like... all the generic resources are just randomly distributed across the entire surface of the world, hella uglily. It's just
Uglily.
That's a word.
Uglily.
Yep.
Hella uglily.
But yeah, it's like they've tried to rip off that system, but haven't made it good.
Right.
I mean, is it possible that that's a system they just haven't thought of a good solution for? Because they haven't got water?
Well, it's like they haven't...
Should there be more caves or structures or like...
Well, it's because
bits of environment you can find, like go around a corner. Oh, there's a thing here.
Well, it's because, I mean, I guess in Subnautica, it's partly gated by how deep you can go, I guess, like your oxygen supply. And this game still has that, obviously, because you're in a spacesuit and you have an oxygen supply, because you don't have an atmosphere,
Right.
at least at the start. Maybe that will be a thing that you can even skip later on once you build up the atmosphere. But, like, it's like they don't even try, basically. It's like everything is 2 feet away from you at the start of the game because it's just immediately outside your drop pod and you just pick it up and then you make a base. And also it doesn't really... that's just compounded with the other systems that they haven't quite done as well. Like the base building, for example, where you can just... in Subnautica, you can just build a base wherever. And in this game, you can just build a base wherever. But in Subnautica, it's like it's not nearly as convenient as in this game, where because there's materials everywhere, you don't even have to carry the materials with you to build a base. You can just pretty much just go to where your oxygen is about to run out and just look around for 2 seconds, find the stuff to build a base, and then just build one, and then just walk in and get oxygen.
Okay.
Weird. Yeah. So can you just keep doing that? Can you build many bases?
Yeah. And again, another system that compounds the problem is like the power grid is like global, so all your bases, no matter how far apart they are, just receive power. So you don't need to worry about that. Although apparently you don't even need power to make oxygen inside these bases, which again, another thing that Subnautica does, you need power for the actual interior of the bases to be oxygenated. So yeah, it's like just like, as I say, they've just basically completely ripped off everything about Subnautica just badly.
I've done it badly.
It seems like they've cut. It feels like they've cut a lot of stuff.
Well, it's like they've tried to do everything, but they just it's like they haven't spent enough time on any of them. Like they've given themselves a time budget where they're like, we can rip off everything in Subnautica, but we haven't allocated enough time on any one of these things that actually complete the fort.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? It feels like they've got the base concept, but they haven't gone as far as Subnautica's implementation of that concept. Is what it sounds like.
Yeah,
like with you saying about how oxygen works, how power works. It's like yeah, the idea of power is there, the semblance of power exists.
Well, it's like
the implementation of it is they've just done a simpler version.
Well, and it's not just like exactly the implementation. It's like you've implemented the mechanic, but you haven't thought about why. Or like even how it interacts with the world in general. There's a lot of things like that in indie games, I guess, where it's just like you put a thing in because you put a thing in and then you didn't really have them. It's like when I was talking about Evorion, where it's just like everything is made of one material, but there are multiple materials you can mine, but it doesn't matter because it all converts into this one material.
Yeah.
So like you put in these multiple materials, but there's no fucking reason. You just did it because that's what games do.
Gotta have some variety.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that little demo thing that I played for an hour or so, and pretty much explored everything that demo had to offer because it even has like the wrecks like Subnautica, where you have to go into these specific wrecks to find specific materials or whatever, or specific items that you need to build your special machines in your base. So there's that. And then the last thing I played, not very much of, but I just started playing because it had just updated like yesterday. There was a fairly big update, or they're calling it a major update for Dyson Sphere Program. I'm not sure it necessarily classes as a major update, but I mean, I guess it did add some actual new functionality, like, new buildings and whatnot. So I guess that's fairly major for that kind of game. But they've basically finally got to the point where they've ripped off Factoria's beacons, as we knew they were going to eventually.
Right. Okay.
Because they're in the process of copying all of Factoria's mechanics. But they have done it in a slightly different and kind of interesting way. Because in Factoria, the beacons are just like a building that projects an area of effect, and then any other buildings that are in that area of effect get the buffs.
Okay, right.
And then you can put different modules into the beacons to affect the buff. So like speed or efficiency or productivity in Factorio.
Buff mods.
But then in Dyson Sphere, they've done it a actually different way, where you have a machine that you place over the belts, and it like sprays the passing materials with the buff. So the buff is like applied onto the materials while they're on the belt, and then when those get used by buildings, then they can, if all the materials that building uses have a buff sprayed onto them, then they can access that buff essentially. And the spraying is is actually like an item as well. So you have to make the spray, ship it around your base to all the little things that are spraying it onto the individual belts. So that adds another layer of the logistics puzzle, I guess.
I see, yeah.
But yeah, it's quite kind of an interesting take on that system. And it's also like it's actually slightly more restrictive than Factorio's method in a sort of good way. Because in Factorio, like if you don't build the beacons, you don't have the beacons, and that's it. But in this case, if you spray the buff onto the items, you can't prevent the machines from using that buff, which gives you the bonus of like extra you can toggle it between extra production where you get bonus output or extra speed where the building operates faster. But in either case, the building also uses more energy and you can't stop that. So if you sprayed the buff onto the belt, any buildings that are getting that buff are automatically going to take that buff and use more energy.
Interesting. Okay. So your entire chain is at risk, effectively.
Yeah. And then it also has like some slightly alternate effects depending on what you've sprayed it on. Like if you spray the buff onto fuel, and then if you've done that, if the fuel gets used in a recipe in like a assembler or whatever, that just gives you the regular speed or production buffs. But if you burn that fuel, it just burns for longer. So like it actually depends on how the item gets used, depends on how the buff gets used essentially. And then there's like 3 tiers of the spray that you can make as you progress through the tech tree. So that's one of the new buildings. And then there's another new building that lets you basically stack items on top of each other on belts, so you can multiply the capacity up to 4 times. So you can just run one belt in and then it stacks up to 2, and then you run 2 of those in and it stacks up to 4. So that's just making everything much higher capacity for a slight inconvenience of having to fit this building into your belt layouts.
But then you get 4 times more belt space back.
Yes, although that can be kind of awkward because I was thinking about if I was going to make, say, like the standard smelting array where you have 30 smelters because a belt can carry 30 items and the smelting is 1 per second. So you could stack that belt up to 4, so you could technically run like 120 smelters off that one belt, except you wouldn't be able to on the output side because everything would be back to single on the output because it unstacks when it uses them, obviously. So you'd have to like integrate stackers along that return line within the smelting layout. So it would be kind of awkward to do because the stacker is like, well, it's not as small as the sprayer. The sprayer can fit in line on a belt, whereas the stacker is like slightly fatter, so it obstructs the squares around it. So yeah, you would have to come up with some slightly new designs. But, you know, that's good. That's the whole point.
That's the thing. That's the thing you want.
But then
give Zach something to do.
Yeah. But then the weirdly, what I guess is the most major part of this update is not actually gameplay related. So that's why I'm saying it's maybe not a major update exactly. But in terms of like, I guess, effort that they took to make this thing, it's probably quite major. Is they've basically made it so you can fully customize the mech. Like previously they gave you colors, so you can change the paint. But now you can just straight up basically build a model.
Interesting.
It uses a mechanism kind of similar to like Evorian or Stormworks, where you're placing singular cubes, and then you build the cubes out with like slopes or whatever into a shape. And then that is attached to a specific point on the sort of armor skeleton, essentially. Right. But then they've gone one step further than that, where after you've built like the little panel of cubes, you can apply distortions to like bend the polygons, essentially. So it does actually give you like a ridiculous amount of control of these individual armor parts, and then you can like stack multiple armor parts on top of each other. So it's this incredibly complicated, unnecessarily complicated system for a thing that there's no reason to do. It's clearly like somebody in the dev team really likes giant robot animes, and they were like, I want to be able to make every Gundam in this game.
Yeah.
And then they did.
All the Gundams.
I mean, theoretically, it might actually have a gameplay purpose later, because in this screen it basically tells you that it affects your weight and your health points. But of course, they still haven't got round to the combat update, which is presumably coming this year. I think is still the plan. So health points still don't matter, but maybe they will. Maybe the actual design of your mech will actually matter at some point, which will probably be really annoying if you don't want to deal with this entire really complicated mech construction system.
Someone will just make, they'll just make mechs that look like Rick.
Well,
Rick and Morty.
Yep. I was already thinking of just like all the stupid jokes you could do with this system.
Yeah. Metal Sonic turns up.
I'm pretty sure you could probably make like a Halo monitor, because I think you could actually turn off all of the parts. So you could just have nothing to start with, and essentially make a floating head, which is what it would be attached to the head, but there would be no other parts.
You had a hum.
But yeah, that seems like a really unnecessarily complicated system. They do luckily also, the mech building design system also has, I don't think it has blueprints yet, but it has essentially the same system as blueprints, where you can copy it as a text string essentially. So people will be able to share those outside of the game, and maybe one day workshop support, because that would make sense.
Yeah. I'm a genius.
Yes, exactly. Although weirdly, I know another thing that I noticed with that customization is that for some reason, when you apply the design, the name of the design becomes your name on the map.
Oh,
because I saved my old color scheme, because I was like, I prefer these colors than the standard orange one, and I saved it as yellow. But then when I loaded that, it's like now I'm yellow on the map. The word yellow, not colour yellow. Which is kind of strange. Not that it matters, because there's no multiplayer or anything, so you wouldn't be seeing other people's names anyway. But yeah. And I guess the last smaller part of this update is they allowed you to blueprint the Dyson Sphere designs. So if you've made a specific layout of frames or whatever, and you want to just copy and paste that, you can just do that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Although, unfortunately, that does seem to have come with a small bug where if you were already building a Dyson Sphere in the save, for some reason the grids don't align any longer. So, my half-finished Dyson Sphere, I was, midway through expanding it from, a Halo-esque thing into an actual, sphere. But now all the parts that I've built aren't aligned to the grid any longer.
Oh, so the existing thing is now misaligned.
Yeah.
So you can't align anything new.
Yeah, so I can't really continue that design without it looking really jank.
Yeah, you're just going out with a weird hole.
Yeah. So I was like, that sucks. But hopefully that's the kind of thing that you'd imagine would be patched quite quickly, because it's a fairly obvious thing to fix. But then again, I can always start a new save, because there's a lot of achievements that require me to start a new save, because the save that I was doing in, there's those certain restriction achievements, of course, where it's don't launch solar sails, don't use foundation. And start a new save for that.
Don't use foundation, your skin's beautiful enough.
Don't use foundation is probably annoying at the start of the game, but probably fine after you get to space. Because you always start on a planet with a shit ton of water on it. So it's really inconvenient if you can't use foundation there, but then you can just move to a dry, flat planet instead and be fine. So yeah, that's Dyson Sphere program. Maybe I'll play more of that, but I don't know about that. I just mainly that Dyson Sphere, the bug with the Dyson Sphere is that just put me right off, because I really want to continue that save, because it's so late game, and I'm just quite close to some of those late game achievements, rather than the restrictive achievements, which I'd have to do a new save for. But then the grid is misaligned, so I can't.
Yeah. I wonder if they know about that one.
I'm sure they do. I bet that bug's been reported plenty by crazy people who are obsessed with everything being neat.
No! Why would you do that? No! Hope it's not we've changed the system that generates that. That's permanent. Suck it up, folks.
Well, I did see a forum post that suggested that theoretically you can actually fix that with mods.
Oh.
You can actually just basically...
Just push it.
Well, yeah, you can just basically adjust all of the data of the Dyson Sphere to like move the actual coordinates or whatever to align to the new grid. But that's not exactly something I want to do. That's too much effort. Just wait for an actual patch. I'm sure it will happen. And I guess technically I don't actually have to continue building that layer of the Dyson Sphere if I really have to not, because it doesn't matter. Like, the layers of the Dyson Sphere don't include each other. So you could just build a new one further out.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Yeah. But you could just build a new one further out.
The whole point of a Dyson Sphere is to occlude the sun.
Yeah. I mean, technically, if you actually look at a Dyson Sphere in the game, if you zoom out quite a long way, you can see that, like, it's not a full, like, perfect, it's not a full perfect seal, essentially. You can see through the solar panel layer. So it is letting some light through. Just not nearly as much as it would matter for building a whole other layer around it. That is still completely ridiculous. So yes, that's that. That's Dyson Sphere Program. And that's all I did. Game.
Games. Oh, well, we're looking good for time here.
Yep. Unless you have anything to say about Breath of the Wild.
Nothing new. I haven't played anything more, but I'll let you know if I do. Same with Red Dead. I feel like Red Dead 2 is good in the first half. I mean, it's all good, but it gets very depressing in the second half. So I'm like hanging out in the first half of the game.
But then you get the third half and you're lifted again.
That's true. There is a third half. I forgot about the third half. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
It really has to be described like that as well. It's like...
It is like a third half of the fucking game. It's like, how can this still be going? Oh my god. Never mind. Right. Well, if you want to see what else we've been playing, check out our YouTube channel because we're playing not Breath of the Wild, but Ocarina of Time,
third Zelda
classic. Yeah. I think we're doing not so badly in the Water Temple compared to the Forest Temple.
Well, yeah, arguably. Compared to the Forest Temple, certainly, but compared to Water Temples in general, I don't know.
In general.
I mean, we figured it out.
Yeah, that is the key.
We figured it out without having to look it up.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be fun. That wouldn't be a fun video if we looked it up.
Man, and even looking it up would be a pain in the ass for the Water Temple, surely, because it's just like...
Because everything would have to be described by, like, the contents of the room.
Yeah.
Although directions...
Walkthroughs of the Water Temple are, like, in a specific order, right? Like, I don't think they like... account for doing things in any kind of different order. They like go through this route.
Because technically you can't do things in a different order. You could just go to places where you can't do anything, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so check us flailing around and having a fun time getting through Ocarina of Time on YouTube. And
the Water Temple's not up yet. It'll be up next week.
Yes,
that'll be up
a bit
soon.
of ice first.
Look forward to that. Check out the Ice Cave first. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with the more Saladcast. Yeah.
Bye.